Welcome to Reading Time with Parker and Sawyer. Today I'm a special guest. I'm Trevor. Today we'll be reading The World According to Humphrey. It's by Betty G. Burney. And if you've missed any other chapters, go back and watch through the other videos to get caught up. So today with me, special guest Trev, we'll be reading Chapter 7, Sawyer Speaks Up. Or Saya, sorry, my bad. On Friday afternoon, Saya's father, Mr. Nassari, picked up after school. He had a friendly smile and gentle eyes, but he was as quiet as his daughter. Saya lived in a tall building, so Mr. Nassari carried my cage up 1, 2, 3 flights of stairs to their clean and quiet apartment. Mrs. Nassari opened the door for us. She spoke to her husband and daughter, but I couldn't exactly understand what they were saying. Hummy, Hummy, a little voice called out. Saya's little brother Derek toddled towards the door to greet me. Say, Humphrey, Saya gently corrected him. Hummy, he said. Then the series put my cage up in the living room, right in the middle of a big table. Then they pulled up chairs so they could see it, all sit and stare into my cage. It seemed as if they were waiting for something to happen, so they decided to show. First, I spun on my wheel for a while. Then I climbed up on the side of the cage and divvied down into a pile of soft paper. They were obviously impressed with my performance as they talked quietly. The funny thing is, I couldn't understand a word they were saying. No wonder Saya got 100% on that vocabulary test. She and her family knew a lot more words than I did. They finally went to the kitchen to eat dinner. Later, while the rest of the family watched television, Saya's mother quietly sat by my cage watching me. She seemed nice. Eventually, it was bedtime for the series, but after the lights were out, Saya slipped out of her room and came back to my cage and whispered to me. I could understand her again. Now you know my secret, Humphrey, she whispered to me. My family doesn't speak English. Well, my dad does a little, but he's shy about it. Mom hasn't learned English at all, and Derek's too little. I understand, I squeaked. That's why I don't like to talk in class. She explained. I don't talk to the other kids. I'm afraid they'll laugh at my accent. That happened to me while I was little. But you don't sound different, I frantically squeaked. I understand you just fine. Unfortunately, she didn't understand me. All she heard was squeak, squeak, squeak. I guess maybe I'll have an accent too. But I have an idea that maybe you could help me teach Mom English, Saya explained. Glad to help out if I can, I squeaked to her. You're a real friend, she replied. See, she understood me after all. The next day, I dozed off a little afternoon when Saya led her mother back to my cage. Humphrey only understands English, Mama, Saya said. Speak English, say Humphrey. Saya's mom looked a little frightened, but she tried. Humphrey, she said. Hummy, Derek cried as he raced into the room and climbed onto his mother's lap. Say hello, Humphrey, Saya gently instructed her mother. Hello, Humphrey, Miss Nassari said. I squeaked hello right back, and she broke into a huge smile. Hello, she said. Good job, I said. Well, things went swimmingly from then on. In a matter of hours, Saya's mom was saying, How do you do? Nice to meet you. Would you like some water? Even when Saya and Derek left to go to the store with her father, Miss Nassari kept talking to me. I let her know I understand what she was saying by wiggling my whiskers and hanging one paw on the top of my cage. Good boy, Humphrey, she said. Saya and her father were amazed at Miss Nassari's progress when they returned. The family spent the rest of the evening practicing English. First, Saya pretended to be a guest at the door. She went into the hall and knocked. Her mother opened the door. Hello, Saya, she said. Won't you come in? Then Derek went out and knocked. Miss Nassari opened the door and said, Hello, Derek, won't you come in? He rushed in and toddled right over to the table, shouting, Humphrey, Humphrey. Next, Saya convinced her dad to practice English with her mom. What time is it? Asked Miss Nassari. What time is it? Saya corrected her. Miss Nassari got it right in the second time. Then Dad looked at his watch. 7:15, he answered. Would you like some tea? Miss Nassari asked. Yes, please. I would like some tea, Miss Nassari answered. Guess what? They had a tea party right on my table. As a reward for all their hard work, I spun my wheel as fast as my legs would go, and they all cheered. Later, after the lights were out, Saya slipped out of the room to talk to me. Thank you, Humphrey, she whispered. My mom says she's ready to go to English class now. but I wish you were the teacher. So do I squeaked, and I meant it. There were more English lessons on Sunday, and Saya showed Derek how to clean my cage. Suddenly, the boy began to giggle. Humphrey poop, he yelled. This English was improving, too. His English was improving. On Sunday night, Saya gathered her family together. I want to teach you an American song, she said. Then she opened her mouth to begin to sing. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn early light? I stood up just like we do in class when the Star-Spangled Banner is being sung, but I'd never heard it sung like that before. Saya had the most beautiful voice in the world. It was so cut that. Saya had the most beautiful voice in the world. It was like a gentle breeze. No, like rippling waters. No, it was beautiful. If only our classmates in room 26 could hear her. Which gave me the start of another idea. But I didn't have time to think much at all, because soon the whole family was singing the Star-Spangled Banner, and I squeaked right along with them, even on those high notes. When we went back to school on Monday morning, though I was a little disappointed, Miss Brisbane asked Saya how things went over the weekend. Fine, said Saya, and nothing more. Like Miss Mack said, you can learn a lot about yourself by getting to know other species. But boy, sometimes it's a lot of work. That Monday, I sat in my cage worrying about Saya for quite a while I dozed off. When I woke up, I noticed that the room 26 had changed. The bulletin board was covered by brightly colored leaves. The top of the chalkboards were lined with big paper witches, ghosts, and skeletons. Hanging from the light fixtures were black, creepy paper bats. And then I looked to my right and gasped. A horrible, huge orange face with an evil grin was staring directly at me. I jumped back, my heart pounding. Hey, Humphrey, don't you like my old pumpkin head? AJ whispered to me from my seat nearby. Look, Humphrey, scared of a little jack-o'-lantern, Garth said. Scaredly cat, scaredly hamster. I stood up straight and looked as unscared as I possibly could. Quiet, Garth and AJ, said Miss Bristleband. She then quickly returned to a math problem she was writing on the board. Suddenly I noticed a little movement to the center of the room. My murmur changed. I looked over and, yes, yes, yes! Saya had her hand up. Everyone noticed it except Miss Bristleband, who had her back to the rest of us. Miss Bristleband, Heidi called out. Without turning, the teacher said, raise your hand, Heidi. Now, Heidi had her hand raised as well as Saya. Well, what is it? Miss Bristleband turned to face the class, was obviously surprised at what she saw. Yes, Saya, she said. In a loud, clear voice, Saya said, may I move back to the pumpkin, away from Humphrey's cage? Miss Bristleband looked from Saya to the cage and back. Yes, I guess it is a little closer. Thank you, Saya. Saya rose and hurried back to my table to push the ugly old jack-o'-lantern away. She didn't say a word, but she winked at me, and I knew what she meant. Heidi, do you want to say anything else? Miss Bristleband asked. Not anymore, she said. Everything went back to normal until the bell rang for recess. As my classmates all scattered and ran towards the door, Garth paused by my cage. Scaredy cat, he murmured. Then he moved to the pumpkin right across my cage again. I puffed up my cheeks as big as I could get them. It was going to be a very long day. And that was the end of chapter 7. Thank you again. I've been a special guest, Trev, and hopefully you guys can watch the next